everyone, it's Lennon, and today we're talking about one of my favorite symbols slash, I don't want to go too far into say that snakes are my favorite animal. They are definitely an energy that I like to have in my practice. And when I first started dabbling in witchcraft as a whole, I started trying to see what symbols would represent me in the best possible way. What natural witchcraft symbols could I draw from that would really fill me with a sense of belonging to the craft, a sense of getting in touch with my power, and like what deities work with this kind of a snake energy. And I started researching so much at the beginning of my journey. And there was a goddess that through synchronicities called out to me. And it was Ishel. And she is a Mexican goddess. And through her, I started to embody, I started to really get in touch with snake energy through her. And mostly, even now, I kind of work with deity in an abstract way. It's very much a kind of like chaos magic in a little bit. I'm not a chaos magician. When I come forth with information about my practice, I feel like sometimes I do need to put the labels down and just for like clarifiers. But when working with specific goddesses or specific energies in terms of practice, in terms of spell work, in terms of ritual, I like to have set things that I can keep coming back to that draw me in, and that also fills me with a really good sense of devotion. Symbols that I have on an altar or that I can meditate on, images, real good images in my imagination that I can pull from when I meditate and when I go out into the astral. I mean, there are a couple of things that I like to pull from. And the one that I use the most is snakes. Like I said, Ishel was kind of the first one that really got me started thinking about snakes and snake energy. And I have a fascination with learning about the creation story in terms of like Judo Christianity because of how I was raised. And when I was raised in that, I had a lot of problems with the story and what my Christianity was trying to tell me where my place was. I had severe problems with that. And so it's led me down research journeys as to the symbology of the creation story. What do all these symbols mean separately? What really fascinated me was looking at other civilizations and other cultures' stories of these same symbols. The serpent is a symbol in every culture, okay? And almost every civilization on Earth that we have record of. And so when I thought about that, I was like, wait a minute, okay, so the snake isn't the devil like we were taught. I don't even know why we were taught that, because to be honest, in the book of Genesis, the devil's not even a thing yet. Satan's not even a thing yet. So I was confused by that when I started like severing myself from that, from my particular Christianity. And I realized after so much research that the snake is more along the lines of like symbolizing sexuality, pure sexuality. And if we go really severe with the symbolism, it actually means orgasm. Pre-fall of man, the sex wasn't a thing. It wasn't I don't believe, when I look at the stories and really study the stories from like kind of anthropology, there wasn't really any sexual acts happening outside of a temple for the Godhead And then therefore that's how we would kind of procreate. Gabriel would bring us babies, whatever. But when I thought about that, I thought, okay, this is just the snake was tempting us with our own knowledge, or knowledge of our own sexuality. And then it wasn't until we bit the fruit, so to speak, the apple here symbolizing paradise, okay? Now, in the Hebrew Bible, the Kabbalists will say that the apple is a symbol of an orchard, and in Hebrew, the word orchard is really a word that's synonymous with the word paradise. And I was like, so if that's the case, then paradise is that peak of an orgasm that we as humans feel. And pre-fall of man, pre-biting that apple of said paradise, we had no idea what an orgasm felt like. It was when we as humans felt the power of the orgasm. It's like we all got sex drunk, and that was all she wrote. We didn't want to be divine anymore. So that's the fall of man, folks. So I really started falling in love with the snake as a symbol for me, because in terms of sexuality, I had no support system. I didn't really have anyone to talk to about these things. And so when it came time to kind of awaken my sexuality, and then in turn have a practice of spirituality, and then I'd already had an abstract practice with spells and rituals and witchcraft, but it wasn't really, they're kind of the same thing to me. Spirituality, my devotion, it's like here's my witchcraft and here's my spirituality, and they just kind of meet somewhere, and then I just do, So I feel like they kind of started at the same time, spirituality and witchcraft. And I've been doing witchy shit my whole life, but I didn't really put it to paper and put it to work until I started to get spiritual, and I kind of blended all of it together. And I really started loving goddesses that worked with snakes and that had the snake symbolism. Really, it was the symbolism, like Medusa, Lilith, Shakti, Eggshell. These sacred goddesses, when I would research these goddesses, they would have snake energy, and I would be like, oh, that means she's in touch with her sexuality. And I pulled from that. I pulled from those stories and adapted some energy within myself to also help with awakening my own sexuality and awakening self-love journey as well. Because for me, they went hand in hand, loving the fact that I am a sexual person, that I am a sexy person, that it kind of goes with self-love in a beauty, in a all-encompassing compassion for all that is me, and sexuality is a good symbol for me to jump off of when I want to actually put rituals and spells down for that work. Now then I thought, let's research just the snake. Like, we'll talk about goddesses in a minute, but let's research just the snake for a second, and all the research I did on the snake. Like, yes, according to Kabbalah and the Hebrews, okay, this is what the creation story could say, but then in other cultures and other myths even, what would this serpent symbolize? And I love liminality, okay? Always. As soon as I heard a story about the fairies living in the doorways, okay, because they're liminal spaces, I was like, I am constantly in a state of liminal thinking. So, because I feel like my day-to-day, my mundane life is a lot of imagination work. If I'm doing the laundry, my mind is not on the laundry, folks. My mind is somewhere in a castle. I'm watching curtains billow real slow because the breeze is moving and it's warm on my neck, and I can smell jasmine in the air, and it may be like a late spring day. That's where I'm quick with it. So I feel like I am a liminal person in that respect. So I loved the fact that some research has planted the snake as a liminal animal, kind of like the cat, but the snake slithers on top of the earth and digs and is underneath the earth. So that got me thinking, it's an underworld symbolism as well. Like, he's in our realm. Okay, we could even go off shamanism here, like the upper, lower, upper, middle, and lower world. We could go our plane of existence and the underworld, and like just those two. We could even do tree of life. The snake coils up the tree of life. That's also synonymous with Kundalini energy. The snake is coiled at the base of our spine, and it's up to us to awaken the sexuality, because that's part of ourselves and part of development as a human. Think puberty. Our sexuality actually defines how we develop. So we have to awaken it up the spine into the receptive of the brain. That's a lot of shit the serpent does, people. So I was always fascinated by the fact that it was a liminal animal. The fact that it could heal, that its venom had the power to kill and to heal, that also it touched me on liminality too, because I thought, because when you take the snake and you get his venom out, that can be used in a whole bunch of like antidotes, vaccinations, remedies of all kind, snake oil. And I feel like its venom has been used for centuries in healing magic and healing work. And then also, think Asclepius, right? And then also, it has the power to kill. So it's like it's standing on the liminality of life and death. So it's symbolizing sex, life, death, rebirth. It's symbolizing all of that. And I love the image of the cosmic egg, which is the egg with the serpent coiled around it. I think that symbol right there symbolizes all of what the snake could represent. It's transformative. The snake is transformative because it's sheds its skin, right? So that's a transformation aspect, also a rebirth aspect, also an immortality aspect, which when I think of snake, I kind of have chased rabbits on the immortality because it's not really immortal, but people from centuries ago believed them to be. So they've kind of dubbed the snake sacred for its ability to shed its own skin. I love when me and my family, like, we go camping and we see the beetle's skin, like whole skin. I'll have to get one and show y'all one time. They're everywhere in the forest where we go camping, and they're stuck to like the pine trees. They're so beautiful. It's like, how did they get out of that with it looking perfectly intact? But if you look really careful, there's just one slit down its back where they've slithered out the back, but the whole shell is still stuck there. And it's mesmerizing to see. That's kind of how I think of snakeskin too. And I have one to show you because at the place we go camping, it's a very primitive place. It's a very primitive nature place. Man hasn't done damn thing to this place. It's just a lake and some trees, and that's pretty much it. When we set off and we go forth out in nature, especially me and my kids, we really like to look for snake skins, shells, because the water fluctuates so high, and bones. I found a whole bunch of fish bones that were very pretty that I've used as altar tools before, and I collect these. This is actually a real snake skin. It's so beautiful. I love that this is its belly. Anyway, I collect those and then, try to clean them as best I can, but they are really fragile. But if I spray them, if I want to keep them from longer than just, a day, if I want to handle it, really use it as like an altar tool, then I'll spray it with like a clear acrylic, and that tends to like really harden it a little bit so I can touch it and hold it when I'm meditating and stuff like that. So I do collect snake skins for that. I also have had pictures on my altars before that I don't have with me, but I have like little postcard type pictures and drawings that I've done that when I need to bring snake energy into my practice, sometimes it's heavier than normal when I need their energy. I'll put some drawings out, and I just use like a file folder for when I need to change things up. So there's that. So let's talk about goddesses for a second. Now, ever since I was little, okay, when I was little, and I'm talking pre-10 years old, you know how sometimes we have dreams that stay with us? I don't know how else to explain it, but they really stay with us. And I had a dream of a ethereal being. She looked really ethereal. And I don't mean to gender identify her, because she looked very feminine in nature. She did have breasts, but I could only see from like her torso up. And it seemed to be like she was emanating this light, but she herself wasn't translucent or she didn't look like an apparition. It's just she was emanating all this light. She had snakes for hair, but they were brown, so it looked like hair. And she just came to me in a dream, and she didn't say anything, which I was surprised about. And I don't remember, all these years later, I don't remember the landscape. I just remember the color of her light. It was like a blue color. And how she just kind of floated to me. She herself looked real, but it was, I guess she was apparition-esque in the way that like something was flowing back behind her, like a big serpent tail or something, because I couldn't see anything below this. So, and then I would do my own research in my teenagehood. She always would call to me. So snakes have always called to me in one form or the other, and I don't really know why. Now, for me, Medusa was an aspect of Athena. So when we read the mythos, she's raped in Athena's temple. She's supposed to be this virginal priestess of Athena. She gets raped by Poseidon, and Athena shuns her, right? But I always thought of Medusa as like an aspect of Athena, in a way that Athena, having something this like atrocious happen to her, she starts blaming herself, shedding that part of herself away, and from shame and guilt, and almost like shunning her own self and blaming her own self for what has happened to her. And I found that to be so profound when I started journaling about those aspects of Athena, that it was kind of eye-opening, because it was like, well, what is the snake's sexuality, right? So therefore, those are aspects of herself that she's locking away. That's her, like, she's afraid to be sexual again. She's afraid to be open again sexually. And I feel like those are aspects of herself that she's locked away. And that resonated so hard with me. It's like she internally sabotaged a part of herself. It's like soul shattering. What happened to her was soul shattering. And I feel like this was like a tower moment for her, but more so like a part of her soul was ripped out when this happened. And when we go through soul shattering events like this and trauma, there are things that we lock and repress, and it's one of those things we do when things like that happen. It's like I feel like maybe she feels unpure, unclean, no longer sanctified to be a priestess, which is really sad when you think about it. Now I want to talk about Lilith. Now, like I said, I've been working with Medusa abstractly for many years now. As a form, like I'll call her up when I need her, kind of a thing. But it's not really, I haven't deified her yet. I haven't initiated myself, her daughter yet. So there's just things that I work with Medusa abstractly. But then Lilith, she's also called me too, because I have always loved the creation story. I started really reading up in how the Hebrews think of, how the Hebrew Bible talks of Lilith, and how she was demonized, and how she has to kill her own babies. And that got me thinking. Okay, and I had already had my babies when I started really studying up on Lilith's mythos, or story, I'll call it. And it was like she just embodied this sacred femininity that most women are afraid to show. Like, she's just this embodiment of the female that a lot of us are not brave enough to touch, are not brave enough to say. These beautiful women are living these American dreams with these husbands, right? Like, let's just say they're living this American dream with their husbands who don't appreciate their sacred femininity. And we, having been raised maybe like I was in a Judo-Christian, with a Judo-Christian background, I'm just thinking I'm supposed to be humble to this man, lay down whenever he says. And that's not fair. That's not fair for my sacred femininity. And so I started drawing from aspects of Lilith as a way to not be undervalued. And that really helped. Now, some scholars believe that the main symbol of the Garden of Eden story is female submission. Okay, and like my family thinks this, that the ultimate sin, the original sin, is the fact that Adam could not control Eve. Okay, they don't actually believe in Lilith, but, and I thought that my whole life, I just thought that can't be right. That cannot be true. Now, for the Hebrews, it is said that when Lilith was made with Adam, they were made as equals, okay? Now, if you read the Bible, you could kind of get this distinction. But she was made with Adam, and then Adam wanted her to be subservient, but she couldn't be because of how fierce her sacred sexuality was. Now, if we can link back to a Hindu story of the female and how in their creation story, it talks about the female when it was made, how the male was the one that kept sending the female back. Oh, she's too this. She just chatters all the time. She just does this. She does this. Send her back. And then he does. God takes her back. And then the man comes forth and was like, but she danced and she played and she loved on me and I want her back now. Like, it's like man can't make up his mind. He wants us to be subservient, but then he wants to have all the sacred femininity that is us also. It's like, make up your damn mind, man. Now, for all of us that have feminine and masculine energies within us, it's about not being subservient to either one. I believe that that's the whole point. I believe that the reason Lilith was demonized was because she kind of was a threat to the patriarchy, right? At the time that the Judo-Christianity came about, all of the sacred femininity that was before was too much. For if the patriarchy was going to rise, if this one man was going to rise up and be the all-seer, okay, the all-God, and being a man, what were they going to do with all this sacred femininity that was floating around? Well, they had to do something with it, because if they didn't, then the female, the feminine, the sacred femininity, would just be floating out here and people would still feel the pull of it. It wasn't until they demonized Lilith in the Hebrew Bible that pulled the whole sacred femininity down a peg. That's just my opinion. Now, Lilith is also said to be like synonymous with Shakti, okay, this sacred female power. Now, Kundalini, I talked about that before, is the serpent coiled at the spine, right? This sacred sexuality. Now, what the serpent is doing at the base of the spine is, to me, that's like, in Jung's terms, the anima and the animus. That's your feminine, your sacred, okay? All your sacred femininity and masculinity coiling up parallel to the spine, and as you awaken it, you're awakening the chakras, according to the Kundalinis, okay? According to Kundalini, it's rising up like this, parallel to the spine, masculine and feminine, all that is the sacred within both of them, up to the receptive of the brain, activating chakras as it goes. Now, when societies, okay, and the patriarchy in general, and this monotheistic religion of this man, God, it demonized the feminine, what happened to everyone is that you're just having this masculine energy, the feminine, the sacred feminine is still coiled down here at the spine, asleep, not doing anything, looking like that. You need to awaken me. And we're not, because we're afraid to, because she's been demonized. She's been shunned, like Medusa. Lilith and Medusa and the snake energy as a total, it reminds me of having both energies within myself and not being repressive or excessive. Not trying to battle out which one's greater. Also, like one more that I had been studying too, and is the snake goddess, the Minoan snake goddess. Now, I'll leave a picture here. She's that figure that's holding her snakes like this, and she looks like she's in a trance. I feel like that is the importance of the duality as well. I mean, because you think over in that time frame, the symbol of the serpent could have gotten back over to Greece, right? For all we could have gotten to Knossos from anywhere, and from India with they could have learned about Shiva and Shakti. I think that the snakes, being representative of so many things, immortality, duality within this, up the spine in terms of Kundalini, and sexuality in terms of Medusa and Lilith. I feel like the snake is just synonymous with so many things that we as humans can draw from those things, and it should be one symbol that we have on an altar, that we have in our imagination when we really try to get to the astral, when we really try to connect, even abstractly as I do, with deity. And it's really been a powerful thing for me to have in my practice, is snakes, snake energy, snake goddesses, snake art, and getting in touch with myself, like I said before, not repressive or excessive, just valuing all that is within me. And I believe that's a beautiful thing. Comment down below if you use snakes in your practice, or what sacred animal do you draw from when you really want to have like a sacred symbol that means so much to you. I want to know. And I hope to see all of you again. Much love.